Gordon. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And Gordon, could you tell us a little bit about InspiriTec, your role there, and what makes the organization unique in in the contact center space?
Sure. My name is Gordon Clinkscale, Chief Project Officer here at InspiriTec. My responsibility is for the direction and strategy of our New Jersey and Pennsylvania projects, also for our development team and our cybersecurity framework. Additionally, InspiriTec is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to empower and employ people with disabilities. We have about 1,000 employees throughout Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Kentucky, some staff in Texas, and also in Florida. We are here to make sure that people with disabilities have the ability to work like you and I and everyday people out there. Our primary, I'd say, core competency, if you will, is contact center and IT help desk services.
That's wonderful. And with such a powerful dual mission, providing excellent customer service while empowering disabled, veterans and Americans through meaningful employment. How does the right technology really enable you and your workforce to fulfill both sides of that mission, both being as equally important while serving your clients?
Yeah, for us, I think the first thing that comes to mind is accessibility, right? So 75% of our staff has some sort of disability. And we leverage technology in order to bridge that gap between, the disability and them being able to be productive and work from a position of strength. We have many visually impaired agents in the organization that use JAWS, for example. So the technology that we use has to be compatible with the tools and the things that we put in place in order to empower our agents to be able to work. The main thing that we look for out of that is obviously compatibility, but we also look at technology that is easy for our agents to be able to use and to learn, and that's where Genesis comes in. I always brag about how when we went to the Genesis platform, one of the complaints that I don't get anymore is how long it takes somebody to learn a system and then issues downstream with them being able to use the system. It's very intuitive. The agent likes it. And that's one of those things that when we have new hire classes or we're building our new hire training, that's one of the things that we don't have to worry about is the impacts it has in that learning curve on training from new hire agents that come in. So it's accessible, it's intuitive, and that's how we leverage it today.
That's wonderful. And in our previous conversation, you also mentioned how because technology makes it easier for your agents to do their job, it increases longevity and reduces attrition, and keeps that tribal knowledge within the organization, right? So also helping with customer experience by just having that wealth of knowledge be ever present.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. When you get a workforce like that, we really try to have them leverage the tools, but also have the skills and the know-how of the team that's here to be able to get them over their hurdles or any boundaries that they may come up with or that they may have. So again, when we're looking at how that relates to them being productive day to day, it also helps their longevity. You mentioned our attrition rates traditionally low. We're roughly about an 18% attrition for call center, and that's good. Genesis helps that. It's not the only thing that we rely on to reduce our attrition. We do have a lot of staff that have the knowledge and the know-how to help folks get over whatever issues that they're having and have long tenures here. But we like tools that help us get there, and Genesis is one of them.
yeah, it's wonderful. And in previous conversations that you and I have had, you have compared your team to superheroes with very, distinct powers. Two in particular, Professor X, with the level of empathy and Captain America style dedication. So, can you share a little bit, for our audience about how that specific example of those two qualities really show up in real life customer interactions with your agents and in your workforce?
Yeah, and I think for us, one of the strengths that our team has, and you talked about superheroes, right? We compared them to like Professor X and Captain America. The Professor X side is our ability to be able to empathize with our callers and our customers' concern. Our folks are people who have gone through a lot in order to be able to get where they are. Sometimes have not been given the opportunities or have been dismissed from opportunities because of their disability. The trials and tribulations that they have through their life, therefore, in turn, helps them to be able to relate and empathize with the callers that are calling in. We do a lot of work across a bunch of different organizations. We do work with the Pennsylvania Department of Health, the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services, PA State Police, Department of Corrections in New Jersey. We work with the Division of Consumer Affairs and their licensing boards. I think it's about 40 plus boards. And then from a federal perspective, we do a lot of work with the Department of Defense, Defense Manpower Data Center, NASA Space Agency, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, and a few other projects that we call them that we work with on. And in helping those callers, there is a requirement for empathy, right? You heard the list that I just went over, and our agents are in a very good position to be able to absorb what's happening on a call, understand, and be able to listen to the caller, but also provide that great customer care from a position of accuracy and efficiency. So from the Captain American side of it, Captain America was somebody who had big, strong. He had dexterity, and he lasted long, right? He's probably
Yeah.
like 100 years old or something like that because of the serum they injected in him. But
Mm.
from a longevity perspective, and you mentioned that kind of institutional knowledge that we gained from lack of attrition. With Captain America, he got injected with a syringe or some kind of serum that made him stronger. Inject that same kind of I'd say time. Instead of serum, it's time and expertise in helping our agents succeed. We put a lot of effort into when we hire somebody and onboard them, providing them supports and the tools that they need, not only just to handle their disability, if you will, but also anything else that comes up that could be an impediment for helping them succeed on the job and be productive. So from a superhero perspective, we always say our agents are superheroes, and the people who support them are superheroes as well.
Yeah. That's, I must agree. I have to. And so let's pivot. There is a lot of buzz around AI right now, and there's hype, there's promise, there's uncertainty. We could add so many words to the list there. And you mentioned being pragmatic about your approach to AI. Avoiding
Mhm.
AI as an answer in search of a problem. And that really stuck with me. And I think a lot of folks have that kind of view. So the question here is, how are you, at InspiriTec approaching AI adoption, and what's in it, in the future along the way? What's a part of that? How are you kind of going about that pragmatic approach in your journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we talked about AI being it could be an answer in search of a problem, but it also could solve issues that you have. I think the first thing that we're trying to make sure that we do is I don't think you can trip and fall without falling on or landing on an AI article or somebody talking about AI, right? So
Yeah.
we're really trying to understand and be aware of it, but not succumb to the AI hype train, right? Not just going nuts and trying to, apply a square peg in a round hole. What do we want AI to help our agents with, right? What can it help our agents with? We always start with that question. And for us, we wanted obviously to bridge the gap between, a disability and being productive, right? Also, something that makes all our agents' jobs easier, right? So 75% of our staff have a disability, the other 25% don't. How can AI help them as well? Can it help make our agents' jobs easier? With any change initiative, one of the things we try to look at is we try to capture the hearts and the minds. One of the toughest things to go through is not just the technology itself, but how do you bridge that gap with the agents and whatever apprehensions that they have? So a lot of information about AI right there. So it seems that everybody has their own opinion on it, and some of it good, some of it bad. But we really try to, make sure that we're communicative about how we're trying to use AI and how we're going to use it and how it can help them. You guys probably heard of it, the change effect model where, change can affect morale, it can affect competence. Agents go through shock, they go through denial, they go through frustration, and then if you do it right, it can kind of build towards adoption and exception, right? And then acceptance, and then obviously productivity. So we try to communicate it early. We try to capture the heart and the mind. We also try to tell them what's in it for them. There's a term called WIFMs. You guys probably heard of that, but we use WIFMs. What's in it for you as we go throughout this transition? And then we try to get feedback from the staff as well. Right now, we're currently standing up Copilot within Genesis. We're testing it with one of our knowledge bases, training it so we can use it to assist our staff and use it in the way it was intended to be used. And we're running a small pilot right now that we're excited about, but we're also learning a lot from, right? So we'll probably talk a little bit more about some of the things or some of the lessons learned we have on our end, but that's really, the main things that main ways that we're trying not to succumb to the hype train and try to be effective with using AI. The other thing is we've had a couple partners that we've contacted that are Genesis users, and we've been fortunate enough to speak with them about their experience with AI. Some of them are ahead of us in that journey. Some of them are kind of behind us, but that conversation has been invaluable. What are you learning? What are you guys going to do? We've gotten some of that feedback, which has helped us along our journey as well.
Yeah. And I think you've said so many important things. I think a lot of folks who are either approaching or are far, past adopting AI would say as well is run the test and learn from your peers, walking into the
Mm-hmm.
pool versus jumping in, starting small, taking your learnings, and then basically laying that out across your implementation in the wider way that you move it within the organization. So
Mm-hmm.
I really like that approach. And another question for you. So your team handles really sensitive calls, as we talked about, previously in this
Mm-hmm.
conversation, everything, from health related to employment. People are facing really difficult situations and they need real help, not just quick resolutions, right? They need time to listen and let them explain everything that's happening and real solutions, once they're kind of done kind of walking you through what's going on. How does your team, balance operational efficiency with that human-centered approach, right? Not rushing them through calls and really listening, really understanding what they're trying to accomplish. So how does your team go about, keeping up with operational efficiency while being human-centered, again, with your mission, aligning to your mission, especially when they have performance goals that they have to stick to, because both of those might not always be, sometimes they might push and pull and be goals that are kind of working against each other.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, a great question as well. I think when we look at it, we try to be very deliberate with the goals that we set and try to make sure that those goals drive the behaviors that we want to see. I've been fortunate enough to be in this industry or unfortunate enough to be in the contact center industry since about 2003. So we're probably almost coming up on 23 years, actually 23 years in March of next year. So I've seen the results when goals are incongruent, to your point earlier, right? So for example, for us, we don't necessarily set a talk time goal for agents, right?
Mhm.
Our goals with the agents are to ensure that they're controlling what they can control, that they're being efficient on call, but we don't necessarily set the talk time goal. You gotta get done this call in 6 minutes, et cetera. So what happens there is you'll have agents they'll be about that goal, and that's all they'll be about. And then you have the other side with the quality and making sure that you're taking care of the customers. And you can have goals that, okay, I got to go fast as I can, but I also have to take care of the customer. What if the customer asks me another question, or Do I ask if they need anything else at the end of the call? And what happens is your agents become conflicted in what's the best route to go on these calls. And ultimately, who's harmed is obviously the agent, but the customer as well in their experience. So we try to set our goals and make sure that we can control what we can control. As far as, for example, like talk time, we probably focus more on wrap time, right? So when you're handling a call, I got one of my managers. She always says, "Gordon, get it right. We get it done right rather than getting it done fast, right?"
Mm,
So handle the call, make sure that the call is taken care of. But when you're done with that, your wrap time is something that you can control. How
right.
quickly are you, making sure that the things that or the tasks that you need to make or take care of after the call are done. Are you talking and typing while you're on the call, et cetera? What are the things that we can control that doesn't pit the clock versus the customer, but
Mm,
also goes into that efficiency space where agents are aware that, hey, I can't get on the phone, talk about the weather with the customer. I have to make sure that they're being taken care of. One of the things we really try to do is create that awareness, right? What is the agent's value to the organization? How does their day in and day out affect our organization's success? And for us, we don't have shareholders or shareholder value to protect. We have our mission that we're trying to fulfill. And that mission is to employ and empower people with disabilities. So how does their role go into that mission? And we really educate them and coach them on being efficient on the calls and, using technology to make sure that's happening, right? So we have our alerts program within Genesis. If a call is going over a certain number of time, that alert will come up. One of our leads will reach out to the agent and say, "Hey, this, looks like this
mhm,
call is going 15 minutes long. Is everything okay? Do you need help?" We build
right.
that into our operational processes. So we are, we have our goals that are driving the right behaviors, but we also have our supports that help drive the behaviors that we want to see as well. So those are the things that we really look at when trying to balance that operational efficiency with the care that we provide for the customers. And it works. It's been a good blend, and it's helped us be successful so far.
Yeah. So for my last question, I want to kind of, tie it up with a bow for the audience with your the last answer about operational efficiency and the one before that about how you're approaching AI in a more pragmatic, format. So for organizations that are hesitant about AI or feel they're not ready, they think maybe they're too small or, it'll take too much to get it done or, started. The house isn't in order, a million reasons, right? What's your advice for getting started? Yeah, what would you say to that organization that that keeps putting it off?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that there's more than one way to peel a potato, if you will, right? So for us, I'm gonna just talk to some of the things that we've done and that we're doing in our journey. So I think the first thing is, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, understand the answer to the question: what do we want AI to help us with? What is that? What is the goal? What's the problem that we're looking to solve with AI? Again, the hype machine is out there. If you open up any kind of web, Yahoo, MSN, you probably go on there and within 10 seconds find an AI article, right? So understand, what does that mean for you as an organization, for you and your team as an organization? What is it trying to help you with? The other, once you get that question answered, how can we get this started, if you will? So, and one of the things we did was we started small. We're starting small, right? We have a small team of people. We're running a little pilot. We're getting the AI, the knowledge articles built into our AI, testing it as we go. But I attended a conference a couple months ago, and one of the speakers said something that resonated with me. He almost put to words what we're doing is, he said, "Hey, when you got an opportunity like this, run the tests."
Mm,
So my suggestion would be to start small, but run the tests. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't look for perfection. Look for progress. Celebrate those wins when you see it. Or, if you run into some kind of hurdles, just make sure you're trying to solve for those hurdles, etc. But run the test. Do it in a small, controlled environment and run the test. I think the other piece that I mentioned this earlier is to communicate with the stakeholders as well. It starts from the top down. Again, I'm chief project officer here, so I have to make sure my team understands the vision and direction as well, and answer those questions, and when work with them to answer the questions of what are our problems that AI can help us solve, and then how do we communicate that to our teams, right? How do we get them? The earlier the better. The sooner you do it, the better. And it doesn't have to be a whole perfect, we have the whole plan lined up, but it can be some little nuggets here and there that can kind of create the intrigue, if you will, and then you build from there. So when people hear about it, it's not a surprise. They understand what's going on.
Yeah.
I got two more
Yeah,
points.
please.
The one of the things that's not talked about enough, and and this is a Genesis call. I'm pointing to Genesis on this too, and all the other AI tools that are out there, is that what are the resources that are needed or required to get the AI
Mm,
tool stand up, right? So it's always, hey, when you get AI stood up, it's going to change the world for you. It's going to make your breakfast when you get up in the morning and all that good stuff. But what does it take to get the tool to where it is being able to be of benefit for you, right?
mhm,
The knowledge articles, the training, the tool. Are there any technical considerations that we have to account for when we're trying to get this tool where we need it to be? How long does it take for us to get the tool trained up? Those are questions that you should start to think about as you go through your AI journey. What are the resources that we'll need, and do we have those resources within this organization? I would encourage you to start thinking about those questions, and consider that in your AI journey. It's not just a flip of the switch. It is work that it takes to get the tool where you need it to be. And then lastly, I would say talk to others. Talk to others like people in your industry. And when I say industry, if you're in the contact center world, I think that spans across multiple industries. So
mhm,
I think contact center is a discipline within itself. But talk to others that are going through the same journey. Maybe they're right there with you, he's trying to start it up, or maybe somebody's ahead or behind, but have a network of people that you can talk to and ask these questions like, hey, we're starting to go on our AI journey. How's this work for you? Or what are some of the lessons learned that you've had? We did that just off of an idea of, hey, we want to reach out to somebody to talk to. And we got a couple of people that we're kind of walking the journey with as we go through our AI stand up and implementation. So those would be my key points. Again, there's no single magic bullet, if you will, but I think if you approach it in that way, pragmatically within your organization, make sure the communication is there. I think the unknown will become known, and you guys will become comfortable with your AI journey as you open up the door and start taking those steps.
yeah. Gordon, I that was magnificent. I run the tests, talk to your peers who are in your space, in your industry.
Mhm.
Just really, really appreciate both of those, and I think that those are very, aligned with how we recommend our customers go about that as well. We can, and making sure that you have the resources, right? If it's going to take an additional bit of headcount, or just pulling, some of the resources for your existing
Mhm.
employees, and making sure you're able to be successful. If you're going to put the investment in, you want to make sure that you're going to get that investment, the ROI from
Yeah.
that investment, right?
Mhm.
So Gordon, thank you so much for joining us today, and sharing your, InspiriTec's inspiring story and your insights. I know our audience finds it invaluable as much as I do. And for more on AI adoption and the latest trends in CX, please click the link in the comments below. And also be sure to follow Genesis on LinkedIn to get notified about the next episode of Level Up CX Live. And you can also sign up for our bi-weekly newsletter as well, and to learn more about customer experience. And of course, be sure to like and share today's episode. And we'll see you on the next episode of Level Up CX Live. Thanks, everyone.
Go birds, go birds. See you
Go
guys.
Hawks.